Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ballin with Bill here at Sideline Power. I have a very special guest today from Mead, Nebraska, Terry Hickman. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's an honor. No, it's great. We tried to get this earlier, but with your busy schedule out at Mead, it's been very hard. But it's finally nice to have you on here and have you out at the Sideline Power building.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we kind of like to start off with everybody and just kind of get kind of learn about you and how you got started in football and when you started football. Who were the main people that influenced you in your life and all that stuff. So I'll let you start.
I think a lot of it for me kind of starts back in high school. I went to Creighton, is where I graduated from. Not Omaha Creighton, but Northeast Nebraska Creighton.
Yeah.
And, we broke my seventh grade year like a 57-game losing streak. Dwayne Doman was our coach at the time.
Okay.
And kind of, by the time my freshman year, made it to the quarterfinals, got to see him kind of build the program. And then my sophomore year, Jeff Jensen took over there and had just a tremendous run of success, made the state championship my senior year. And, football was a sport I always enjoyed. Wasn't the best at it, didn't play as much as maybe would have hoped, but I felt like I got to learn from a couple of good coaches. I went to Wayne State College. I always interested in history, wanted to be a teacher. And then I was lucky enough, my first job took me out to Alliance, and they had a spot for an assistant freshman football coach. Worked directly under Michael Baker, who's been a real pretty good basketball coach out there, and Travis Hawk was our head football coach out there. He let me help out with the varsity, and after a few years, I was the head freshman coach. Michael Spargo out at Dundee County, he was on that staff. Chris Seabaum, the current head coach at Alliance, was on that staff. Bubba Kramer, who was there. It was just, I felt like there were a lot of really good coaches there, and I wouldn't have been ready to be a head coach if I would have gone somewhere small and I was head coach at 23. So being on that staff with all that talent, all those great minds, really helped me to prepare to come to Mead. And I was an assistant for a couple of years before I was head coach. And I felt like I pulled in a lot, whether it was Jason Larson here at Mead and then John Dahl, been at Mead forever, and he came back, and I pick his brain all the time. And, yeah. So I've been lucky. I've had a lot of really good mentors.
Gotcha. Is football your favorite sport?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the one I did most through high school. It's the one I watched the most, and it's the one I coached the most.
Now you also coach track too, right?
Yes, I do. That one's maybe more a bit of a marriage of convenience, where I have a little bit of background with it, but I'm needed, so I step in, help out, and may not be my number one thing, but it goes a lot hand in hand with our athletes, and so I enjoy it. It helps us, as all the kids in our building know, it's, track's going to help you with your other sports, but, I enjoy it on its own right. Just seeing the kids, I mainly focus on the throws, and so seeing them build their PRs as we go throughout the year, that's really exciting to do too.
Do you get a good turnout because it helps with football and other sports? Do you get a good turnout with that?
I think we get a pretty good turnout overall. I could always wish there's a few more football players on the track team and maybe not golfing or other things like that.
They take up a golf. Huh?
Yeah, but they're good golfers, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
But no, I think we got a lot of pretty good ones. We have good track numbers for as small as we are, and it seems like it fluctuates some years, but I can't complain. That's for sure.
So now, how long were you at Alliance before you came to Mead?
I was at Alliance for my first 5 years.
For 5 years. Then you came into Mead and became assistant coach there.
Yes, yep, for my first two, and then this is my seventh year as the head coach at Mead.
Awesome. How do you enjoy that? How do you enjoy the transition from being an assistant coach to being a head coach? Because it's different. Because I've done it too, and it's different being assistant than also become a head coach.
I think the big thing for me was taking over a lot of the organization, a lot of the planning, and that's my wheelhouse. That's what I'm best at. That's what I'm good at. So, planning for, we got to be up in Allen on Friday. What time are we leaving? What vehicle are we taking? Who's driving where? All that type of stuff. For some, that might not be an enjoyable part of it. I mean, it's not the most enjoyable part, but I just find that type of thing interesting. Just all the practice planning, all the scheduling, going through, and being a small school, injury here, injury there. Okay, who are we shuffling over? What are we doing this week? Because we got to make it work with who we have available. How do we do it?
Gotcha. So now Alliance what level are they?
Class B when I was there, and still Class B. Yeah,
and they're one of the top
Yes.
schools I know. They've had great
Yeah.
football. They had a great football program when I was in high school at West Side.
Yes.
They were always very, very good.
Yes. Yep. No, quite the tradition. And Travis Hawk followed Jeff Tomlin before he went to
Right.
Grand Island. And yeah, so I know a lot of those two coaches. And then the coach during the '80s, Skip Olds, was actually
I
the
remember Skip's name. Yeah.
he was the assistant principal. Came back for one more round when I first got out there. So
Okay.
yeah, I've run into and did cross paths with Jeff Tomlin, but
He's
his
a heck of a-
imprint
he's a
was
good
still
ball
there.
coach.
Yep,
He's a good
his
ball
imprint
coach.
was definitely still there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now, so you were coaching 11-man out there, right?
Yes,
And now then you went to Mead, and it's 8-man, correct?
yes, it is.
So how did you adjust? Because that's an adjustment. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's a different. I mean, it is. It's a faster game. It's you score quicker. I mean,
Yep.
I know. It's just. I mean, it's exciting. It's got to be adjustment with the X's and O's and
Yep.
the field. You got a lot of field to cover with your 8
Yes,
kids.
we do. Tried to take a lot of what worked for us there and kind of adjust it to what we were doing. And that's again where I was lucky, where I was an assistant for 2 years under Jason Larson, where just kind of had to learn to accept more so in 11-man. There's going to be a hole somewhere in the defense. You're not going to be able, unless you
It's
just
hard to
have
get-
8 studs, you are going to have a hole somewhere.
Right.
They're going to get their yards. If you can pitch a shutout, that is amazing.
Yeah.
But
I don't. I've never. I don't know if I've ever seen a shutout.
I think and granted, we've been about average during my time. Sometimes a little below, sometimes a little above. But I believe we've 2 shutouts, I think, in 7 years.
That's pretty
And
dang
I've
good.
been shut out, I think, about 2-3 times as
Okay.
well. That it's
It's a
hard to
rarity.
keep everybody wrapped up there because someone's going to spring loose. And the sooner you accept that, you kind of have to be bend but don't break, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to give up some yards in the in between, but be good on 3rd down. Try to keep them out of the end zone when they get close. When kind of that red zone time, those are kind of the keys. And offensively, that you can't have quite everybody. Well, I feel like the 2 things offensively, you're not going to have as many people in the routes or as many options when you go through the run game because you're down an eligible receiver. But if you're sending everybody out, you also only have 3 to protect. So your quarterback's either got to be pretty mobile, or you got to protect the quarterback by you've got to have some hots. You've got to have some quick things to get it out there, because you can't drop back 7 and expect a bunch of crossing routes to come through. Because
Angles are
Yeah.
awful hard that way.
Yes.
To protect. them.
Yes. Yep. And that's where I'm lucky. Cole Blumendahl, my defensive coordinator, I call him during practice Sir Blitz a lot, and it keeps me honest, because I don't think anybody comes quite as hard as he comes at us during practice. And so if we can pick it up in practice, we feel pretty confident we're going to be able to pick up some new things in the game too.
Gotcha. So, being an ex-offensive lineman myself and coaching that position, what's the difference in protecting with 5 guys, or you do the combinations you do to protect people at 11-man, and then take that variation in 8-man? How does that? I'm interested because I always played and I love that position, and kind of try to understand how you adapt.
I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but we try to keep it simple. We try to keep it very simple for our linemen, because I feel like we can get quite the variety of looks week to week, because everybody's in the same boat that we are. I feel like if you lose one guy, you might not be a 3-2 defense anymore. You might be a 2 something, and it just looks very different. And so we try to keep it simple and give our linemen certain rules to always follow. And so that puts a lot of the pass pro on the back and the quarterback. And, there's some plays it's like, okay, if they're bringing more than 3, it's on you to get to the hot or make that guy miss or just get out of the pocket. So I feel like our quarterback's a little bit more responsible for his own protection maybe than in some cases.
Gotcha.
And then some of that falls on me too, that, okay, maybe not a mobile quarterback or as mobile quarterback. Maybe they're just really exotic with their blitzes and it's hard for him to pick it up. Can't send everybody out and put him in that position. You just got to kind of protect him, either keep a 4th guy in or just nothing long, nothing slow developing.
How does that affect your routes when you keep an extra guy in?
And that's where we try to, sometimes it's the tight end, sometimes it's the back, sometimes it's both, sometimes it's neither. So that
So
you can't.
you'll do a 5-man protection. If
Yes.
you need to.
Yep. We'll Yep, and we'll go max protect and one guy route if we have to.
you
If
do?
we
Okay.
think we have a guy that can win a 1-on-1.
Gotcha.
And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Right now we feel like we do. And so just try not to be super predictable. If they always know it's these 4 guys blocking, well then they can come up with something to come through.
They can always come with a good imagination.
Yes.
can't
Yep.
they? Yes.
Yep. And maybe that's part of 8-man. Just you got to be creative because
Right.
you don't know what you're going to have week to week or what you're going to see week to week, and be willing to change and adapt.
Gotcha. What type of offense do you run then? What's your scheme and what do you try to do?
I always cheat a little bit, and when Huskerland Bob asks for the write up, I just always reply multiple. And I mean,
that's a good escape.
we have balanced, tight, heavy formation, just RI formation, and a loaded gun formation, because I feel like we have to be able to get into something where if it's a 3 yards cloud of dust type of game, that we can do that. But we also try to spread it out a little bit. We have a mobile quarterback right now, so we try to take advantage of that. We have a pretty decent group of receivers, so take advantage of that. Some it depends on what we have available. This year we have an inline tight end for the first time in 3 years or so, because we felt like we had good receivers, but maybe not a lot of depth with linemen and tight end types. So the tight end went away, except in those tight formations. And in those cases, we brought in extra linemen, and they weren't traditional tight ends so much as they were tackles, really.
Better block.
Yeah, and so if our best guys available lend themselves to running the ball, then that's what we are that year. And last year I thought we were heavier or better with our receivers. Turns out we were strong with the line. So by the time we got to the end of the year, our last regular season game, our game-winning drive, I think we held the ball for about 9 minutes, ran 16 plays, and scored with like a minute to go, because it was just power right, power left, because we could do it, so that's what we did. If you would have told me that in August, wouldn't have believed it. But
But it worked out that
Yes,
way, right? At the
yeah.
end of the season.
yes,
Now, how do you run option in that type of football, or do you run option?
we do run some.
Okay, how do you
Ours
do
is
that?
probably
it's
more of
different.
the.
I mean, because the numbers.
Yeah.
So how do you count it, and how do you do that?
We don't do really anything that would be the true triple
The
option.
true read stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we'll do a single read out of like a zone read.
Okay.
Or, and we've tried to do what I consider a veer in the past.
Right.
And for a variety of reasons, it just never quite worked for us. We're only 1 game in this year, and so far our read game was a really big part of last Friday night and our
Awesome.
success running the ball. So hopefully, finding some wood, hopefully that continues. But yeah, it's. We run into a lot of teams that are kind of downhill veer, and they've got the pitch back, so we have to defensively.
How do you do that? Yeah, I want to hear how do you, because I understand that when you're 11 man how to scheme it and responsibility. So how is it? Because you got a bigger field, but you still got to have responsibility. So how do you do that?
I feel like it's more or less the same. You got your guys interior that have the dive responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You have your guys that got to sit there and read the quarterback, and you got the pitch ones. What maybe gets 8-man into a little bit trickier situation, I feel like, is your guy that's got pitch. I think he'd always have pass responsibilities as well. But now he might be your corner. He might be.
Ooh, that makes it tough.
Yes, and yeah. So without giving too much away on what we
No,
do,
don't.
it's just I feel like they're in more conflict than what they would be in 11-man.
Gotcha.
You do the option to put guys in conflict, and
Right.
I think now you really have them in conflict because
you got responsibility.
you got out to the corner a lot faster than what you would have if you had that extra outside linebacker. And
Right, or the strong safety
Yes,
coming
yeah,
up. Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
So it makes a difference.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now this is the tough question for you so far. How do you defend this game? Because I mean, every time I went to a game and watched it, I mean, it's fun to watch. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
offensive battle. I mean, it really
Yes,
is. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to be DC at an 8-man football myself.
Yeah. No, you. I think you gotta be ready and willing to adapt. Is
Gotcha.
the big thing. We've tinkered with different fronts, and we kind of feel like the odd front gives us the best chance because
Okay.
we could be in a base 3-2, and we can go from that into heavier fronts. We can go from that to our spread defense, as we call it, and so we it all kind of flows. We've tried in the past also throw a 4 front in there, and it was tricky because then some of your basic rules, it just carries better from one to the next. But if you have a 4 front in, then you also have a curveball changeup you can throw at the other
Right.
team. and maybe take something away that they've been having success with, because we've had some successful defensive game plans where it was a 4-man front, and we got to be ready to adapt, and guys got to be interchangeable. We call it Pickworthing because we've had a run of brothers, and that's their last name.
Okay.
The middle brothers they were big enough to be linemen for us. They were big enough, athletic enough to be receivers. So they played, I think both middle brothers played every level of defense for us, because depending on how we had to line up, well, you're a corner here, you're a stand-up D end here, you're a linebacker there. And so guys that are smart enough to do that, athletic enough to do that, and also willing to do that are worth their weight in gold. Because that gives us the ability to hopefully have our best 8 on the field, but adapt to what adapt to what the offense is showing us. Because we might be expecting heavy run game, and they lost their fullback, so they're going to come out and throw it 40 times, and we got to be ready for the curveball. Always ready for the curveball.
Is it hard to find 4 good linemen to play defense?
I think it's hard to find guys, at least for us, stout enough to hold up in there.
Right.
That they're very willing. We've had some guys with great technique, but the bodies just aren't quite built to be a D tackle. Yeah. So we've had some real good interior linemen. Last year we had a nose tackle that was huge, pretty good technique, and very athletic, and that's more than worth its weight in gold, because if your nose tackle can hold up in there, then that makes a lot of other things click very well. Right now we're a little young and a little undersized on both sides of the line, and so we have guys that are very willing, very hopefully capable, have great technique, but the physicality is hopefully going to come as we go through.
Yeah. Awesome. So tackling, do you teach tackling any different? Because you got more room. It's harder to play so much gap control like you do in 11-man football.
Yeah.
So tackling part, how's that taught, and how do you accomplish that?
The last few years, we've really stressed just tackling lower, and we kind of switched up to the more rugby-style tackle, so near shoulder, wrap and roll.
Okay.
And 3-4 years ago, we tackle every day. Everybody goes through the same drills. We don't really do it position specific because everybody could be in the open field, and especially now we're so interchangeable on size that you never know. But we focus on a lot of low tackling. Our theory kind of is, if we can, if we're at the knees in practice, then hopefully we're at the hips in the game. We're not, you're going to lose a little technique in the game, unfortunately. I think we all feel like we could probably tackle lower. Even the best tackling team in the state probably feels like they could still be lower. But we're going to over-exaggerate it in practice, so hopefully in the game it carries over and it's right where we need it.
Yeah, because watching the games last week, both high school and college, the ones that were on, that was probably the biggest weakness of all schools, no matter what level, was the tackling ability early in the season.
And
when I played, we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust, so they tackled them. The offense took forever to get going.
Yes. Yeah.
Now it's like the defense has got to catch up because of the tackling.
Yeah. And with the rules for safety in place and all that, where
Right.
we've only got so much contact so many days, it makes it tough. And that's why our everyday tackle drills, it's a tackle wheel and it's a tackle dummy. It's all the mechanical stuff so that we're unlimited on it. And, and obviously it's tougher to tackle a human, especially a really good athletic.
Yes. Yeah. You can't copy that out.
Yeah, but so we try to rep it as best we can so that we're doing it every day so that hopefully it carries over the game. Yeah. Some games better than other games, but
because you watch the tackling right now and then watch it middle of the season, it totally changes. And it's like defenses are better towards the end when you get to playoff time than they were early in the year.
Yep.
That's just what I've just seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, because those a lot of times are your most live reps because of, and in our situation, I feel like never mind the contact rules, we got to be smart about the contact in practice because we're 1 or 2 injuries away from a freshman, or we have nobody left on the depth chart.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Where you're
now?
looking to move somebody over there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's. I think when I look at football today, I think a lot of even your Class A's face a lot of that too now, just because they get a couple injuries. They're going to bring somebody up from that freshman team or something like that, which that's a heck of a responsibility. For that young man to come up from freshman and play varsity, play with juniors and seniors.
Yeah, that is tough. That is tough.
Yeah. So, so you got your offense, defense. What's it like coaching special teams? I always wanted to know that.
This year, again, because we're so kind of same size across the board, if we don't have size, we do have athletes. We're hoping that's where our depth kind of shows through. That some guys that in the past few years we had to ask them to play every snap of offense and defense and all the special teams, that we can get them a breather because we can get someone that can do the job on kickoff, that can do the job on punt return or whatever it might be. So we're hoping to take advantage of a little more depth there and get some young guys ready for later in the year when they'll have to step up and beyond. I feel like special teams is especially where you notice it is almost as large of a field with a lot fewer people on it because, we did it on Friday night. Had one guy outside of a lane on a kickoff, pretty decent, one guy barely outside of a lane, and they were gone to the house, and it was a touchdown. And, I didn't feel like, and Coach Blumenthal does our special teams, so he might disagree with me a little bit. I didn't feel like our lanes were absolutely horrible, but with that good of an athlete on the other side, it doesn't take much, and they're gone. They're
How
gone.
hard is it to cover on punt and kickoff?
Punt, I feel like we get a little bit lucky
Right.
just because I think maybe because of the numbers and, maybe just our level, we're not getting a lot of 40, 45-yard punts, so we also don't see a ton of returns. But I'd be willing to bet we've been blessed with some good returners over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had at least a punt return for a touchdown every year for 3-4 years,
Wow,
but maybe
that's
not
impressive.
return more than 9 or 10 each year, and still got 1 or 2 for a touchdown because when you do catch them, then all bets are off because it's kind of a scramble out there. If they're outside of their lanes, then it's not going to take too many moves and they're in the open field.
Gotcha.
But if it's a 30-yard punt, those are kind of hard to catch because they're right on top of you. So I think we get lucky there that we get a lot of 25, 35-yard punts that roll and aren't ever touched. So we've been, again, finding some wood. We've been
is
pretty
wood.
good on our punt coverage, but I think that's a lot of it. It's
hang time
hard
the
for the
key
returner there.
Is hang time the key to all that?
Well,
So you
and-
get those kids in their lanes and downfield?
I think that's part of it. I think we've also been lucky. We have guys that are a little sporadic, so you can't just know we need to set up over here and we're going to catch it over here because it might be there. That they've been consistent without being the same spot every time, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, it does. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back in a little bit. Thank you.
My red wine playlist.
Hey guys, Bob here with Sideline Ballin. Today I want to tell you about the Big Red Sound System. Powered by 5 DLM speakers, this system is designed to reach a crowd of 5,000 or more, making it easy to cover an entire football field. Big Red Sound System can run for 8 or more hours on a rechargeable battery. Plus, its clever design makes it extremely portable and completely wireless. And the system has Bluetooth, so you can connect your phone, blast your favorite beats on the field, in the locker room, wherever you'd like. Oh, I love this song. Oh, no! Guys, come on! Oh, guys!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sideline Power and Ballin with Bill here with Coach Hickman from Mead, Nebraska. Coach, tell us, because I know your kids are probably multiple sport athletes.
yes.
And a lot of schools are nowadays. So, I mean, at your level, I know you get a good male athlete, you want them out. So how do you do your strength program during the season, off season, in order to keep them competitive and out for the sport?
Well, we've been pretty lucky. Like I said, when I became head coach, John Dahl, who was longtime head coach at Mead, state champion in 1987, He retired the year I moved to Mead, but he came back the year I became head coach. He was an assistant. Again, really leaned on him on the coaching part. But when he came back, he helps out a little bit as a pair in the building. He also has some athletic weights classes. And he's been teaching students at Mead lifting and just power and all that. For longer than I've been alive, actually. But he may not like me saying that, but it's true. And when I got to Mead, we had one athletic weights class that was up against American history, so juniors couldn't take it. There was a PE in the morning, and those were the only two options for athletes to get into the weight room during the school day. Okay. With Coach Dahl available, in addition to Coach Siski, our regular PE teacher, it's virtually available every period of the day.
Well, that's nice.
It kind of works into their schedule. And so we have a lot more students that are male and female, but a lot more students that are able to get a lift in during the day. We also had a run here recently of students that we have a gym in town, and he does a really pretty good job of making himself available for some personal training to them. That they can get it in the morning, they can get there as well. So it's kind of built in. I don't really feel like as the football coach I have to do a lot extra, because between the weights classes and that, it's kind of built into our school day, which to me makes a huge difference, and I think we've seen that. During the off season, if they're out for basketball, I just kind of let them be. That's their basketball time. During track, we try to build in some of that weights with track.
Good, yeah,
especially with our throwers. The jumpers, runners, kind of leave the coaches a little bit alone on that part. But then if they're not in one of those sports, we encourage them to, we'll make time, we'll get you a workout. All of our students have the ability to get into our weight room pretty much any time. They get free access to a key card as long as they're following the rules. They got a spotter and they're not in there by themselves. They have access. So, and those are all new things since I'd been here that weren't here when I first started, but have been added. So our kids just have a lot of access, and we've been lucky. We've had a lot of self-starters here recently. And then we do the summer weights like everybody does. And, we've had a lot that kind of burn the candle on both ends that are good about coming into our summer weights, but they're also going to their own trainers, doing their own stuff on the side. And I like, there's a good kind of balance there, I think, where, doing extra and kind of both sides working together to, I know our trainer in town focuses a lot on body weight and flexibility, and we do some of the more traditional lifts and more power ground-based stuff that it kind of, I feel like it works together pretty well. It goes hand in hand pretty well.
So what core lifts do you still require nowadays to build strength and body size?
Yeah, still a lot of squat, bench, clean. We try to do variations of them. Become more and more of a proponent of front squat and hex bar deadlift. Take a little bit of load off the back. Hopefully get a little bit deeper as we get into the squats, and try to keep the good form, or try to improve the form so it carries over to the back squat as well. But try to go through a lot of that, and then a lot of cleans, trying to get all those joints going and exploding, and
that's good. So how's this? Let's talk about your first game a little bit here. It was an exciting game. I mean, it was. Yeah. It was. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Saw the score. It was a wild one.
Yes. Ended up on the wrong end of 74-50. We were up 42-38 and a half. Offensively, as the offensive coordinator, I was pretty pleased there. And I'm sure Elman Murdoch could say the same thing I'm about to say. We gave up too many big plays. Kind of got out of position, and against good athletes, can't get out of position. And, a lot of our scores came on big plays too. And so we were good at executing the big plays offensively, not really good at stopping the big plays defensively. Okay. And then, unfortunately, we had basically two positions get hit by injuries, and we couldn't keep that pace of points in the first half going. I thought we held pretty tough. We showed some grit and resolve, just couldn't quite get it done, couldn't quite finish the game. Cramps reared their ugly head. It
was a hot one. Yeah. It was hot last Friday.
Yeah, we tried different and new things all the time, and we're trying something new this week. Hopefully the weather helps us out a little bit with that too. Yeah. But we have not figured out the cramps in week one quite yet, so we we've got to keep
The
working
weather
on
should
that.
help some you a little bit. And
Yes.
The kids
Yes.
getting a little bit cooler and used
Yeah.
to the training and
Yeah.
being in the pads. That should help hopefully this
Yes,
week.
yeah. Because especially when it ends up being that high scoring, we had a number of guys go pretty much every play both ways that you just can't replicate that quite in practice.
No.
That
No.
intensity, that many plays that long.
And,
no matter
and the
what
stay
you
and the cardiovascular takes
Yep.
to do that,
Yep.
energy levels and everything,
Yep.
and water, all that stuff
Yep.
gets just used.
And he didn't end up playing a lot of nose tackle due to a variety of reasons, but we were a little bit worried about our nose tackle having to go both ways, center, nose tackle, and he held up great. He said he cramped on the way home after the game, but he was the one we were worried about, and he was an Iron Man out there. He played pretty well and played out of position at DN quite a bit. So
Good for him.
Yeah, he did very well.
How many seniors you got this year, Coach?
We have 6 seniors. 5 of them are able to play. One, unfortunately, kind of an injury retirement. But we have a
sorry to hear
nice
that.
core. We have a nice core of 5 guys out there on the field that bring a lot of leadership. And we always tell them, for whatever reason, Mead kids sometimes are a little quiet. But we have a lot of good leaders by example. We try to get them to kind of talk and lead that way a little bit more. But we definitely always have a lot of good leadership by example out of our guys.
Awesome. So next to this week, who do you play? And tell us a little bit about them and your opponent.
We're going up to Allen. We saw them last year at home. They line up in the eye quite a bit, but they can spread you out and throw a little bit too. They were a pretty tough downhill running team last year that would then kind of get you out of position with some of their counters and their boots and things of that nature. So we need to play both physically but also technique sound or assignment sound,
Yeah.
so that we're in the right place where we need to be, doing the right things, so that we can make the tackle and get guys to rally around and help finish the play.
Yeah, that's important. So are you on the road or are you at home?
We're up there at Allen, so
Okay.
we have being at Alliance previously, a 6-hour drive, not fun, but pretty much the norm. We're going an hour 45, which for those of us that are local down here, that's pretty far. For me, I'm a little more used to it.
Now, Alliance, you got some good trips.
Yes.
Out there.
Oh yeah. Oh
Get
yeah.
to get to all your opponents and
Yes.
stuff. So now tell me about your district that you're in this year.
We are in kind of a more, gotta think for a second which direction, more southern district. We've got Diller Odell and Falls City Sacred Heart way down south, Johnson Brock, and then OCA is kind of our more local one out of
Okay.
Omaha. And, some tough opponents in there, and it's kind of tough because, Sacred Heart's good at everything. So they're going
Yeah,
they can run at you, they can spread you out. They've got a really good quarterback. Diller Odell, really physical team last year. Johnson Brock last few years able to spread you out and run at you some. So, and then OCA a little bit. I feel like they're always kind of like us. They got to adapt to what they have. So you got to be ready for kind of spread out game, also ready for more of a run at you game. So I feel like what works one week or what we prepare for one week might be very different the next week.
How do
Because
you do all that teaching? That's interesting. I mean, because there's a lot of learning there.
I think it's a lot of callback to what we did earlier in the year.
Okay.
And whenever possible, and that's where we're kind of lucky, we see our defense with opponents a decent amount that, the scout guys are getting reps in our defense while they're running theirs. So even if the play looks a little bit different on scout, we just use our verbiage that, we block this. It's a little different, but just think of it like our fill in the blank. And I think that keeps our kids' heads from spinning, but it also builds the learning for later on. And the more we can reference that, okay, you guys saw this with Allen, these guys run a similar thing, and so it makes it, we're not teaching new every week. We're just remember this, remember that, where it's always going back to the past thing.
Are you excited for the year?
I
love
am.
Friday night. So I think it's the purest game going. So I just think it's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
no, every year is exciting in its own kind of way, but with some of the guys we have back and the experience we have, but also the new guys kind of learning in the spots they are, makes it for an interesting year. And this group they can have quite a bit of success if we can put it all together.
well, I hope you do. I hope you do. I'd like
Thank
to
you.
see you guys do it this year, and wish you a ton of luck. And I appreciate your time coming out and seeing us today, and spending some time. I know you're busy, and we really appreciate that
Oh, thank you.
this time of year. And we wish you a safe journey Friday, and hope you have a great night. Now you
Thank
know
you.
you know as a pro wrestler, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, gosh dang, make me feel good. We got to finish up here with the hush. All right, this means we want food or money from Mead, Nebraska. All right.
Okay.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hush, hush, hush. See you all next week. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate
Yep.
you very much.
Thank you.